Hello and welcome to Industry Today, the podcast powered by MTC Events. My name is Lauren Chambers and I am delighted to be joined today by Anni Toner, Group CEO of The Data Shack. And Anni will be discussing all things AI and digital transformation, but critically how businesses can move from AI theory into practical action. So Anni, thank you for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
So everyone's talking about AI. We have addressed it in past podcasts in different ways. Where do you think UK manufacturers are currently on the AI adoption curve?
It's actually been a great shift in the last year. Being at the SME last year and looking at the surveys before the time, getting some of the stats and the data that they've pulled last year, they told us that 59% of manufacturers are still scared of AI and scared of starting. This year, the stats look really a great deal better. Mm-hmm. They showing that 9% of people have really actually started, and a few of them have really good use cases finished. However, scaling those, really deploying at scale is where the problems still lie, and really finding the right way of doing it, I think.
Do you see differences between industries?
Absolutely, yes. There's definitely heavy industry is doing a really good job. I'm finding perhaps industries like pharma manufacturing, fast-moving consumer goods being a little bit behind them. But in the UK, really, people have embraced things. They've really tried and got started. So I'm really happy to see that and investing in it.
And the businesses that you work with, what do they come to you with? What do they want? Do they want big picture, longer term strategy, or do they think they need AI in their business now and they want to see quick results from it?
Well, we kind of have a motto: fast is the new smart,
right?
which for me is really, they cannot, and they hear from every avenue, they cannot be left behind. Mm-hmm. So they do want to start, they don't know how. So what they're asking us for mostly is what are the best practices? Mm-hmm. And how do we get started with our first use cases very quickly? We really see approaches where, especially I've worked globally and in the US specifically, you see some of the AI use cases taking up to 1 year, costing $1 or $2 million. That's way too slow.
Yeah, they're not yet seeing a return on that either. So
no,
yeah.
Not at all. So I'm seeing businesses really having identified some of the possible use cases, but asking us to help them get started very fast, whilst we're making sure that we're putting the right building blocks in place, because they're really good methodologies for doing it right. And we call it a bimodal approach. Start, pick a use case, do something, but while you're doing that, really start learning to scale up and putting all the right things in place for a center of excellence at the end of the day.
And can you share some examples of where businesses have done that really, really well?
Yes, we've had some customers where really we've done AI readiness assessments for them, motor manufacturers, people in heavy industry, perhaps the oil and gas industry doing really well, and pharma manufacturing coming to us, and some of the fast-moving consumer goods are moving fast in the last few months. Asking us to start there, check that they're actually doing the right things, that the cases, a lot of the time people think AI can do or can solve use cases that are not non-AI specific. Mm-hmm. So making sure they pick the right ones, putting them in a hopper, prioritizing them, getting that started, and making sure that we give them the right advice and that they follow all the right steps and tick all the boxes.
And you mentioned there are a few industries that you work with. Does the attitude differ between the different sectors that you work with in terms of their want to engage with AI and their acceptance of the new world that is AI?
I think so. I think in the smaller, the SMEs are a little bit more scared to start.
Yeah.
The big boys have started.
Yeah.
If you look at the big auto manufacturers, aerospace, those types of technologies, they have some good use cases. Those are well suited for AI. So I think they're more keen to start, and they're more sort of willing to take the risk. The SMEs are a little bit risk averse, and there we have to really help them with very small, and how do you eat an elephant in small, tiny little pieces, but making sure they gain confidence as we go.
And is that how you approach SMEs? My question was going to be, how do you get them to build that confidence in adopting AI? I guess start small and then they can see the return on what they can do and therefore where to then take it to.
Absolutely. It's that quick return that you're talking about. So if you can take a small use case, small sprints using Six Sigma methodology that they used to, their engineers got trained on it.
Yeah.
We use those methodologies, pick a small project, 6 weeks, we determine the ROI up front for them so that they can go back and ask for more time, ask for more resources, because it's not just about sometimes cash, it's about time and resources and skills. So those become really critical, especially in the SMEs.
And I think you've just referenced, you use language that engineers are familiar with. Yes. And there's a lot of jargon and terms around AI that a lot of engineers won't understand. So is that part of the Data Shack's approach? Bring it down to something that they understand, they're comfortable with and feel safe with, and then work how they can take that on to the next level with AI.
Absolutely. For my sins, I'm a statistician. I've got a master's degree in statistics. And so I started in industry thinking I'm going to work in finance and marketing, but I ended up very quickly, year 1 or 2 of my career, in heavy engineering and metals and things like that. And so making sure you can speak the language very quickly became a Six Sigma Master Black Belt. I had to add that to my skill set to be able to talk the language of my customers and develop tools. A lot of the tools out there today, the tech tools, are very much focused to CRM, finance. So if you look at tools for analytics and AI, they're not necessarily geared towards manufacturers. So we've tried to really gear our methodologies and tools to speak the language that they speak.
Do you think that is one of the challenges that companies face? So there's the people element that you've mentioned, there's the tech element, and there's the mindset element. Is it a combination of those 3 factors, or is there one that jumps out more for you in terms of the barriers to entry?
It's a combination of all, but really in the UK, find that the skill sets, actually, again, looking at those stats from the manufacturer, from Hennick Research, if you actually go look back at them, the biggest factor that they identify is skills and AI readiness skills. Some of our very largest customers, we've got a customer for which we train. At least we do 3-4 courses, AI courses a month.
Wow.
Just their general workforce. They're starting to ask us about Gen AI to make just their audience literate. In the last 4 or 5 years, we've trained 6,000 people, making sure, because people are scared to touch and to speak that language, and it's bringing the right tech with the right people. But also sometimes you find when you look at the AI type problems, you need to ask the person on the ground what the actual problem is and help them turn it into an analytical question, which if you look at Six Sigma methodology, that's really what you get taught. So you have to bring it all together. But people, skill shortages, and a lot of businesses ask us, should I go out there and hire AI skills? Unfortunately, some of the courses out there, a lot of the AI graduates get taught on programming skills, which is not what you really need. You need those math skills. You need engineering skills. You need to be able to understand the problem that you are solving and what to apply. I feel like a plumber with a toolbox. And I go and say, well, if you're trying to solve problem A, like predictive maintenance or something in a plant, it's very similar to life tables when you're trying to predict the life cycle of a person or the mortality rate of infants. So you've got to be able to kind of be a master to match the right methodology, the right tech and tool to the right problem. And that you can only really teach inside your business. So I would say the advice I would give manufacturers is to say, don't go out there and just hire somebody that doesn't know anything about your business. Upskill the people you have. They know what the questions are. Teach them the right methodologies. Give them the right tools.
And I guess also engage with people across the organisation. So people on the shop floor that are dealing with these challenges day in, day out, they don't need to know the solutions, but they need to be able to explain to you what problems they need solving.
Absolutely. And, for leadership teams, if you're looking to embed AI, the guys on your shop floor know best what's going wrong. And oftentimes when we do these literacy courses, data literacy, AI literacy courses. We like to have a mixed audience, and we like to make them solve a practical problem in their own department while they're doing their training. Reason being, they get the ear of management because we mix a management team into that course so that they know how to listen for the right things. Even your AI people, to listen to an engineer's question and be able to work with them to solve that. And it's usually a team approach. It's like a village. It takes a village, really.
Yeah, and I think because it is a mindset shift for a lot of businesses as well, getting that buy-in across the business is only going to help that.
Absolutely. You need to, number one, you teach them from the beginning with like Six Sigma skills. You teach them to speak a common language, to measure KPIs within your business with common denominators. So you might as well integrate your AI strategy with that. And we've really tried to, for one of our customers that we have as a global, and we really actually teach all of their new intake, process engineering, metallurgical engineering, chemical engineering teams together once a year. They've learned Six Sigma. We teach them how to marry the methodologies for AI into what they've learned, and how these two actually work really well together.
So a business comes to you and says, Annie, we know we need AI in some form. That is the way the world's going. That's the way our sector's going. We can see the positives and the opportunities. Where do we start? Where do you begin with that?
Well, we first of all definitely do a site assessment, understand their business questions and problems. So AI readiness assessment is a really good thing. Looking at the use cases they have in mind and making sure we tell them, these may not be great. And we've got our assessment has a really good checkbox to say, well, do you have the data? Do you have all the data you need to answer the question you have? Have you thought about the tech needed? Have you got this stored somewhere? We've got a customer, a coin manufacturer that make euro coins and things like that. And when I first started solving a problem in their chemical processing where they electroplate the coins, we realized that some of the data we needed to answer the question was not being collected yet.
Right.
So AI could be applied, but we couldn't solve the problem completely. We had to wait a few months and collect enough data to be able to do that. So those are all the things. If you do a readiness assessment, understand the problems you can solve immediately, prioritize them, start small, and make sure while you're picking the first one, you test all of the little boxes. Do you have the right tech? Do you have ethics? Do you have the right training structure? Do you have resources? And do we need to upskill people and create the areas in our business where we that we're lacking? And that's usually where we find skills, AI and ethics, and are people actually educated about what this is supposed to be doing? Are they scared? A lot of the time we get asked questions, is AI going to take away my job? So making sure that you educate them to say that AI is actually going to make the mundane things about your job go away.
Yeah.
It's going to enable you. Data and analytics and AI should be able to help you be an intelligent human being and being able to make decisions from that data and do things faster. Those mundane things can be done by AI.
And use your time efficiently and focus on those skills that you've learned and spent years, kind of harnessing. So talked about data, and data is obviously, an incredibly important part of AI. How do you help businesses go from collecting data for the sake of it, because it's what they think they should do, into something that's usable and useful?
Oh, absolutely. Huge industry, making sure you marry and you actually critically evaluate the data that you're collecting. Always map with the end in mind. So we're looking at critical business KPIs and critical business questions, making sure that, as you say, it costs millions and billions to store the data, to move it around in old school data warehousing. These days it's cloud, you pay per transaction, you pay for storage, making sure that the data, actually when you look, I've actually helped a customer use actually Six Sigma methodology to say, you know what, we've got 1,000 sensors in this plant. Actually, what's really essential is about 30% of that.
Right.
And we're storing all of that, we're collecting it, we're paying loads and loads of money to push it up and down. They've got 9 different factories across the region and putting it somewhere central where the AI models used to run. We've decentralized them, but that costs a lot of money. Do we really need to collect that or even push it around and store it and send it up to a central place for our models? And so it's very important to make sure, together with all of this, you look at the data strategy and work with the data teams and make sure that those are in place. Because if that's not in place, I always say to my teams, 25 years ago, I felt like a DHL driver picking up little packages, a little package, and that's my data in a little truck, and I would go and put it all together and try to build a model.
Yeah.
These days, I feel like a submarine navigator, and the data is the water. I just have to go pick up the bits that I need.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it out there, but I need to understand which bits are important and align it with my strategy, align it with the questions that will be answered by these models and algorithms.
I think that's really key, isn't it? Because you'll have companies that aren't collecting enough data. You'll have companies that think they're doing all the right things by gathering all of this information, and then they don't know what to do with it. And like you say, you'll have examples where you've helped companies actually cut back costs and data because they don't need the level to which they're connecting it. So, and workforce readiness, I know you've touched upon already, but there is still a concern about AI and the role that it can play in, people's workforces. Is it going to take my job? Am I going to be replaced by AI? As opposed to enough people, I guess, seeing the opportunities that come with AI. With the customers that you work with, how do you help them ready their workforce for AI implementation?
Well, a very good question. Right from the offset, if they've got a really good AI strategy already, right from the top, number one, you need leadership buy-in. You need leadership to communicate the priority of it correctly, all the way down to the shop floor level. And to do that, we kind of start with an approach of doing very small bursts, 1 hour, 2 hour little literacy courses for the entire audience, and then going deeper and deeper to the people who will actually be the practitioners that will have to go and solve problems with using AI. And so you normally start with kind of almost all of your workforce as fast as you can, making sure that you tell them how this is linked to the company's broader strategy. But then also explain to them, what the benefits are and what those things are. And if you look actually at I've got some McKinsey reports and Gartner reports around the adoption of AI and generative AI. And there's various departments where certain jobs are changing. So it's really exciting. Last year at the National Manufacturing Summit here at the MTC, there was a lot of talk about how do we attract youngsters into the manufacturing industry? You attract them by making those jobs available, making sure that the job of a young analyst or an engineer coming into your team is more exciting than when I was a young statistician, data scientist. I spent 70% of my time just putting data together and prepping data to be able to do anything fancy with it. These days, there's automated systems for doing that. You teach that person to be a great analyst and to see what the data tells them. And to get there, you've got to start at the top, create a mindset, hire the right people. Because if you do that, you're upskilling that person immediately and you're making it attractive for those youngsters to come into the industry. They're not just doing something, I cannot do anything practical. I like math. I've got a little letter from my grade 2 friend saying, Annie, I've finished our art. Thank you for the math. So I'm really bad at practical things, but I'm artistic in using models to answer questions and teach those guys have those kinds of minds, teaching them those skills. They're really good at it. If I train young engineers, if I train young manufacturers, guys that really get their hands dirty, they're really good at grasping, actually modeling and algorithms and building those things. They actually have a knack for it. So really upskill your people and you will attract more of those as you upskill the people you have.
And it sounds to me like there is a job to be done within businesses around how they are attracting people into these roles. So we did a podcast recently about skills and training, and one of the things we talked about was your job ad should be an advertisement. It should be, you know, you want the best people to apply for it. You want people to want to work for you. How do you do that? And potentially there is an education piece within roles that involve AI to do that. And like you say, position AI as saving you a load of time to do the stuff you don't want to be doing and to free you up to do the interesting stuff that you've trained for and want to do more of.
Yeah, exactly. Make them curious about it.
Yeah.
I think STEM really over a 20-year period has had a real drop because we have not made it attractive for youngsters to be curious and to ask really difficult kind of questions and have the appetite for solving them. And I think AI is giving it a little bit of a new edge because they are reading about it. It's on their phone. I think certainly in our CMO, Al Heron, did some research with Gartner. And they basically are saying that your new workforce are going to be users of super apps. I have grandchildren who use little apps.
Yeah.
Make the tech and make those things attractive to them, as in what they see on their phone, that they're hearing about AI. They know my phone is AI powered. But to hear your job is AI powered and this is what you're going to be doing at work, I think it makes it a little bit more attractive than maybe 20 years ago. And STEM is having a resurgence, I think, because of that.
If you make AI part of the everyday conversation, hopefully people become less scared of it. And, you know, to be scared of something is a real emotive response, but that is what happens, right, with AI, and you see that. And you talk about STEM and the skills gap in UK manufacturing is something that we talk about on almost every podcast that we do because it does cover a lot of elements of the sector. Do you think the kind of the STEM skills gap has made AI harder to kind of accelerate and harder to kind of get people involved? And like you say, now potentially it's working and doing a bit more, but do you think that's been a barrier and why we're maybe a bit behind the curve than other countries?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Worldwide, I think we've seen this. There's this sort of scaredness of it, and we've just seen the more people are embracing technology, they start hearing AI, data science, data analytics. It's actually priming people to go there, but yes, it's put people behind. There's a generation. I think there's a 15, maybe 20-year gap, and we're going to have to fill it perhaps with people that are in our workforce already, not at school or at university today. I think that's coming, and there's nice nurturing happening there at the moment. But we're sitting with a workforce already that kind of lack in those skills. I don't think the engineering side of things, and again, those guys are typically the guys who really do well on the job training. So I think if companies really want to get ahead and stay ahead, they should teach the skills that people may not have learned at college, university, technical colleges. They should train it on the job and make sure it's part of the job and make it very practical. I can tell you when I studied statistics year one at university, you kind of go and sit and say, where am I ever going to use this formula? And the day I started absolutely loving it is the day I started solving problems with it.
When you
so make it attractive to your workforce on the job, and showing them how that can solve problems. I think that can close that gap because we do have that, I think, a 20-year gap. And that's the only remedy, I think. Those people have done a lot of their tertiary education already 20, 25 years ago. And give them new skills and give them something to aspire to. I think it lifts your entire company a peg up.
And we talk about, younger people coming into industry that are digital natives and are growing up with this world and are much more comfortable in it, maybe not from a work perspective, but from a societal perspective. So is the responsibility, therefore, on employers to upskill their workforce that aren't probably there, might think, this isn't for me, I don't want to be a part of that, but actually with this gap in skills and with this skills gap in STEM, how else do businesses do that other than focus on who they've got working for them now?
Yeah, and I've got a semiconductor, large European and Chinese semiconductor, who have really done this well. They've really gone into their older workforce and gone to say, we want to upskill or uplift the profile of your job particularly. We're going to take you out of a shop floor type role, and for 2-3 months, we're going to upskill you with these types of things. And we've had them work with more experienced data analysts and Six Sigma people and engineers who solve problems with analytics and AI and data science. Work with them, teach them the skills. They become part of the team and put them back in the business. They've done it so well, and those guys have really lifted the performance of the entire company. They've got some plants in Europe where they really manufacture the really high-end new product. They do new product development, and especially those guys are pretty much older. They've got cultural sort of aversion to tech.
Yeah.
I found it so interesting to see all of a sudden, in the beginning, reticence, the first 2-3 weeks of their courses, and then all of a sudden when the light bulb clicks, they go, oh, my job profile has completely changed. I can solve problems myself. The minor ones, I can go to a higher end data scientist or analyst within my business, but I can solve some of this myself because I've learned the skills.
Yeah.
And you uplift that person that was kind of scared of tech, and again, that uplifts your entire business.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see who have gotten it right. And these are high tech manufacturers, and I think they really sort of prodding at their workforce, and I think that's great.
And changing that culture as well within the business.
And yeah, you have to change it right from the top down.
How does the UK compare to other nations? You talked about that example from a Chinese customer of yours. Where does the UK sit on the scale of, really doing this well, or are we actually really playing catch up?
I think the UK, we have some of the most innovative people in the UK, people who are not scared, people who can pull themselves up by their bootstraps, having to solve problems that, really inventive, not scared to tackle the biggest beast. And I think that's the best thing the UK's got going for it. I think some of the other European businesses we work with are a little more reticent, are a little bit more traditional. In the UK, I find people have the appetite for innovation. We have a clever workforce. We have a resilient workforce. And I really think that stands the UK in good stead. People want to innovate. People are not scared to kind of attack that elephant. They're a little bit scared of how. Mm-hmm. But do we want to? Absolutely, yes. So I'm very positive about that because I really see that, that attitude of I will keep going, I will solve this problem. Absolutely love that because, that's what's going to take you there.
It's the whole kind of attitude versus aptitude conversation, isn't it? You can't teach someone to think in a certain way or behave in a certain way. You can upskill them and give them the technical expertise, but if their baseline view is this, then how do you shift that? So your belief is that the UK has that. We just need the support to go again from an AI perspective.
Yeah. I really think the businesses want to. I think the workforce wants to. It's that give them the ability to do that and be a little bit creative because I don't see any. I see other countries being a lot more conservative. I really think the UK has got it going. There's such a lot of inventions and patents and people doing really new things. We should be doing it with AI, and there's no question that the UK can do that.
You've shared examples of some fantastic things that your customers are doing. It would be wrong of me not to ask you for your examples of work that you've done as the Data Shack, but also personally. I know that you have a real passion for rhino syndicates in terms of solving issues there through AI, which is fascinating and very different to anything that we would normally talk about on this podcast. But tell me more about that.
Oh, great. It's a great passion of mine. Thank you for asking, Lauren. You can hear by my accent, I grew up in South Africa, even though I come from Scottish parents. I grew up in South Africa. I've done work there in intelligence that I can't talk a lot about. However, the corporates for which I've done that work have allowed us to get access to that data. If you look at AI in that context, it's very simply, if you marketing, if you were a handbag brand or shoes, we ladies, right? And you would go and see, what types of customers buy similar things and so forth. You use AI techniques, clustering. Who do I market to because they look the same and they buy the same, all those kinds of patterns. The same works in syndicates. The same works in understanding behavior. Where does the money come from to fund criminals? Who gets guns? Who trains people to be able to even do things like that? And so using AI algorithms to understand networks of people, the way they behave, where do they go, what do they do, where do they get funded from, it's mind-blowing to see some of the techniques I learned as a statistician young in my life and the algorithms really being applied to people, networks, and data around people and their behavior, and us being able to very scientifically prove and show and try and understand what behavior is causing certain outcomes. So I'm really close to my heart, to still involved in it. The poaching numbers have really gone down over the last 10 years, and because closing, you close if you can understand the source, you can close it down at source, and it stops a whole bunch of other things, really bad things. So very close to my heart. We like doing projects like that. Also training young data scientists. I've got some projects teaching them skills, underprivileged kids, because that's, again, how you ignite STEM and bring it to industry. Yeah. Because there's a workforce out there that's kind of crying out for it, I think.
That's amazing. And I think, one of the things that we talk about is how do people's jobs impact the real world, and that is probably not an example that we thought we'd be talking about today, but an amazing example. If you've got young people that are interested in things like that and conservation or whatever their passions might be, there potentially is a way in which they could find a role and then combine the kind of technical expertise to not only do their job, but do good and make a difference.
Exactly. And so many, I think, especially in our youngsters, there's a culture of wanting to do something for the greater good. Yeah. We see youngsters in environmental sciences. I mean, we work in carbon trading and carbon scoring, and again, using those networks, understanding supply chains. Is your supply chain as green as it should be? Because that legislation's coming in. Our manufacturers are needing to really look at their supply chains and where's that coming from. It's the same as looking at a syndicate, but teaching a child it in a really practical way with an animal. It's something passionate to them, but teaching them the algorithms and the methodology, it's so much easier if you're doing something that to them seems every day or something they can do on a weekend. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, and I think the sustainability piece is, people are deciding which companies to work for based on their sustainability agenda. And,
absolutely.
10 years ago, yes, some people would have done, but it wasn't as talked about as it is now. So the fact that people care more about it and are bringing that into their decisions for who their future employer is going to be is only a positive thing, isn't it? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you're showing that to your workforce and, making them do, I really feel whilst you're training and teaching them these skills, make sure it's interesting to them. The courses that are most successful for us is exactly the ones where we attack something that not only may be their job or it's a problem they struggle with every single day. And it's so applicable. That's what they're passionate about. If you make a person's job easier or you make them more successful, they're infused to actually really implement these things and run with it for you and with you.
You touched upon ethics earlier, and ethics quite often comes up in the context of AI. What ethical or governance questions should businesses be asking of themselves if they're looking to scale up their AI?
There's really good frameworks. The UK is a little bit behind Europe in that, but there's really good AI and ethics frameworks to look at. What we see really very much is a concern, and I think the McKinsey report I was talking about, looking at what jobs are changing, really touched on that and actually said that if one looks at giving people actually access to AI tools, especially generative AI these days. Security of your own data, public appearance is a huge thing. People are very, very scared of it, making sure that a business has access to some of the AI tools. Because you don't understand and the governance is not there, you need to be sure that within your data teams, your AI teams, you have the right people that can explain those to your leadership teams, and make sure that when we're putting any algorithms in there, they are fair to our people. If there's people data involved, if there's some of my customers, we literally do look at people data within the organization to understand performance and behavior, making sure that's done ethically. A number is used, not a name of a person, all those kinds of things. That governance is extremely important, but also to the public image of the company if certain data is leaked. You should really, the big tech houses are also, again, brilliant at ring fencing those kinds of things, but the frameworks are out there. Use them, and we include that as part of a readiness assessment to just see, do you actually have ethics frameworks in place? Do you have AI frameworks in place? And what are the things you may be lacking? Is it data security? Is it the kinds of problems you're looking at? And you need to make sure that you've got those in place. Yeah.
So having that infrastructure in place to make sure that companies aren't just running headfirst into AI, not just from a perspective of I need AI in my business now, but it's, do I have the foundations in place, like you say, from an ethical governance perspective, to mean that when I'm doing it correctly? Yeah.
Early on in my career, working in banking sector, there were brand new algorithms out there to be able to do credit scoring, for instance. Many businesses took years to adopt those just purely because they could not explain it to the regulators.
Right.
Because it's really intricate algorithms. So making sure that you have the people, the resources that can simplify, understand, document, and make sure that you comply. That's very important.
What do you think doing AI well looks like from a factory setting?
I think when it's consistently, it runs like a well-oiled machine. I like an author called Jim Collins that he's got a little analogy of a flywheel on a car that says, you start small with a use case, then this use case triggers our resilience in our workforce. More people are solving these kinds of problems. We can solve more problems. We've got a sense of excellence at the end of the day. There's a quick path. There's a 6-month to 1-year path to having a sense of excellence. That's what looks good in a business. But that takes starting with a bimodal approach, small use case, and then taking that and putting all the check boxes in place in the infrastructure, the ethics, all of the things we've just spoken about, and then being able to plug in new use cases very fast. And that wheel starts turning faster and faster, and you have a very competent, capable AI center of excellence within your business where you have the skills, where you can go and pick your problem, assign it to the right people, and it runs through all the right methodologies, all of the right check boxes. And then we've got some customers who really are doing it right and who've had successes. And those are the guys that are your best-in-class manufacturers because they cottoned on very early and they started. And again, I say it again, fast is the new smart.
Yeah.
If you want to be smart, be fast. You have to start. I know there's some reticence, but if you're not sure, there's many industry experts, there's tools that can actually help you get started. But do get started, but do it the right way. So it's a little bit fast and slow.
You are speaking at the MTC's Digital Manufacturing Today event in October. What can people expect from your session?
Really getting practical. We really discuss some practical use cases. We'll have a actual customer come and speak about the journey to implementing AI within their business. And we worked with them. Then we walked that path from very small wins in the first 6 to 8 to 9 months to huge wins in the first 2 years, and so and solving many cases and many. So people can expect seeing. There's a lot of talk out there. I think last year with the surveys, manufacturing surveys, people were worried to get started. People now have gotten started, they're scared of, will it work? And how do we measure this? How do we measure success? And can we learn from others? They want to see use cases that have worked, use cases that haven't worked, and learnings. And so we're bringing some use cases to the table. And a customer telling you themselves, I really struggled with this. The particular customer I have in mind is a lady, and she said to me the first day we had a AI readiness chat around the table. She said to me, Annie, I got a bit nauseous. It was really bad. And I had to run out and back in and go, am I going to get this done? And is this achievable? And we now, 11 years later, having solved many, many, many use cases. So, expect to see that. Real world examples, because it's very touchy-feely if you go to, these conferences and you see a tech stand that's got plus AI.
Yeah.
It's the same message as last year. We want to see real use cases, and we've done those, and what's worked and what hasn't worked.
And I was going to ask you, what role do you think events like Digital Manufacturing Today play in the world of AI in particular? I guess it gives, you guys as people that work in the sector, but just more broadly, the chance to share those use cases and make businesses feel more comfortable with the conversation.
Absolutely. I think it's that touch and feel aspect. The MTC has always been there for that. Come and see that it can work, that it has worked. And I think the value of that is for businesses that are scared to come and see and network with people who have done it and understanding those best practices, but also, knowing that there's a place out there for them where they can go and say, I might want to try this out. Can you help me? And can we do this together? And can we walk that path? Because you don't really know that it's going to work until you try it yourself. And seeing people like you having successes with it, I think that's what these events really, really help bring it to life.
What makes you optimistic about the next 12 months for UK manufacturing from a digital perspective? Are you optimistic about it? I'm
very optimistic about it. I think there's a lot happening in very many industries. I think funding is going the right way.
Yeah.
I'm very optimistic about a lot of. I saw some articles in the media this week about food manufacturers investing, and it looks like reshoring almost. People investing in their plants in the UK, and I really like to see that. Because if you're investing in that, the digital strategy is going to follow that. Because usually that's what costs the money or makes people wait a little bit is, do I have the investment? Do I have the people? Will I get started? So that makes me really, really optimistic to see that there's a lot of investment in the right areas within the UK to stimulate the growth.
And final question, what's the one piece of advice you would give to manufacturers that are really starting to think about moving away from the theory of AI and thinking about AI into putting it into practical terms within their business?
Get started.
Go for it.
If you're not in the game, my talk in Birmingham 6 weeks ago was compete and win. It's get started. If you're not in the race, even if you come last the first time, you have to get in the race. You may fall at one or two hurdles, but keep going. Make sure that, again, as you get started, you make sure that you pick safe bets or bets that you know will work. And it takes somebody that's done it before, perhaps. Walk the path. There's companies like ourselves out there that have done it, that have worked with customers. We know don't take 20 years because we have learned with customers for that long period of a time, 20, 25 years. Learn from other people's experience, I think, and there's really good there's a really good appetite out there for getting started. So get started. Don't be scared. But do it the right way. And again, that bimodal approach, I'm really want to sort of, you have to get started, but you have to make sure you've got everything in place.
Perfect. Annie, thank you. We are very excited to have you back at the MTC in October for Digital Manufacturing Today. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
If you would like to hear more from Annie and fellow industry colleagues and sector and subject experts at DM Today, then head to digitalmanufacturingtoday.com for more information about the event. It is taking place on Wednesday, the 22nd of October, here at the MTC in Coventry. Attendance is free, but I know it's proving hugely popular already, so don't miss out your chance to be a part of those conversations. Thanks again for joining us. Make sure you search for Industry Today wherever you access your podcasts for past episodes and hit that subscribe button. Thanks again.